Rhonda, go.
Hi, I'm Rhonda Montgomery. I am a certified peer support specialist.
And I'm Kimberly Brothers Sharp. I'm the current Director of Business Development for Centerstone and a co-founder of The Living Room.
There she goes.
I'm Stephanie Pond. I'm the unit manager of The Living Room and the Adult Crisis Program and co-founder of The Living Room.
I'm so glad you all are here, and I'm Tara Bassett, and this is Barbara Sexton-Smith, who is our Metro Council person for this particular area of town, and we're glad that you could join us, Miss Barbara.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I know you have had a crazy day so far, and I appreciate you taking the time to be with us. We're in the living room, and we started over again just because it was more fun this way, so we could have all 5 of us here. And we are in the living room, which is part of Centerstone. It's started out as a diversion program for police officers to bring folks who needed a little bit of help that they couldn't necessarily get in the hospitals or in jail. And it's turned into a 24/7 wonderful agency that gives people who really, really need some help in a crisis the opportunity to avoid those places. And that's what we want for sure. So we'll start from the other end this time, and we'll go back and we'll do our introductions one more time. Councilwoman?
Yes, I'm Councilwoman Barbara Sexton-Smith, representing Louisville Metro District 4, and it is such an honor to get to be here with you all today and have this conversation about the living room model. This is something that on Metro Council we deliberated for a long time and funded the pilot project in the last budget cycle, and then this current budget cycle that we're in fully funded the program.
Amazing. Yeah. Stephanie?
Stephanie Pond, unit manager of The Living Room and the Crisis Program.
Great. Kim?
I'm Kimberly Brothers. I'm the Director of Business Development and one of the co-founders of The Living Room. Much appreciation for Councilwoman Sexton-Smith for her support and willingness to learn and always being close by to help us problem solve what we needed. So we're glad you're here.
Rhonda?
I'm Rhonda Montgomery. I'm a certified peer support specialist.
Excellent. As am I.
Yes.
Let's do knuckle bumps this way. So, and I'm Tara Bassett, by the way. This is taken from Tara. And we were just saying at the beginning of our last interview that we just went ahead and stopped so we could start all over and fresh and have everybody in perfect condition on camera. We've had makeup, we've had hair. You know, everybody's been here.
I missed that part.
You look great.
You look fabulous, don't worry. We talk about a lot of serious issues on this show. We do a lot of fun things too, and you know, I'm just thrilled with the fact that we can be here because right now is a critical time in our city. We have a crisis of homelessness, we have an extraordinary opioid addiction, and we are dealing with a tremendous amount, as a matter of fact, 1 in 4 of folks who are affected by mental illness. So that's what I call the unholy trinity. And we need to work very hard to be able to accommodate and meet people where they are instead of shoveling them off and marginalizing them and putting them in places out of the way where we don't have to worry about them anymore. And I recently wrote an article for the Voice Tribune, which was about a guy named Dog Man and his little dog Bish. And he's homeless, he has an addiction, and he has a mental illness, and he wants to deal with all of those things. And I know there are a lot of other people on the street. We were talking about our friend Kyle, who frequents Frankfurt Avenue and who's a friend of mine, who's dealing with the same kind of things, and they're battling their demons. I'm going to start with you, if you don't mind, Kim, and talk to me a little bit about the living room and why you guys developed it.
Sure, it really was a thought process from about 5 years ago when we were really looking at some opportunity to be different and to try to find those people who are maybe have had experiences with community mental health but have not had their needs met in that way.
Right.
And recognizing at the same time that Kentucky was getting this grand opportunity to have certified peer supports like Rhonda and yourself.
Absolutely.
And saying, hey, there's an opportunity there for something so unique and so different that provides an opportunity for those people who have been marginalized, who have concerns, who the stigma of mental health care and of addiction have been barriers for them in the past, and really looking to do something different. So there had been a group of people before Stephanie and I who had had the opportunity to see a recovery support center in Arizona. And when Tony Zippel came into town and we came into Louisville, he said, go figure out what the city needs. And so we were very...
That's a tall order.
Yeah, it really was.
Figure out what the city
Go
needs.
field tripping is what he kind of said.
Go forth, women.
Go figure it out. So we actually toured Chicago, Miami, Barrett County, Texas, Newark, Delaware, and we brought back to this wonderful group of people on a steering committee and said, here's some things we've learned. And LMPD, Louisville Metro Public Health Department, Louisville Metro Detention Center, a lot of the great council members actually got to go to Chicago with us to see Rosalind's Triage Center, We engaged in a lot of technical support with those community providers we had met across the United States. We're having conversations actually with the National Association of Cities to say, what's different? LMPD really got in the mix with Assistant Commander Sheriff Parks, who is just a phenomenal champion of this. And she gave us some basics that really got us on the right path and said, here's what you need. It's got to be quick. Or officers won't use it.
Right.
So we timed a citation, 6 minutes. We're hitting 2 minutes for officer drop off. But we knew what that goal was. We said, we probably won't have enough money to be open all the time, so we'll just be open this time. And she said, no, you got to be open all the time.
Go for
There's
it.
no opportunity to call and say, do you have availability? Are you open? You can't have that thought process.
Right.
You can't have a maximum capacity.
Right.
You can never be full. So it really gave us these bones to start creating this vision that took about 3 or 4 months with a lot of support to say, this is where we think we fit in the city and what the city needs to help those individuals who have maybe not had that opportunity in the past. We are incredibly low barrier. That was a big point for the police department to say, we got to be careful about setting rules of who can come and how can come.
Right.
And it fit our philosophy of recovery, which is every minute and every day is an opportunity for recovery. And we said a lot.
Every day is a new day.
Every day is a new day.
That's right.
And it really started to guide our conversations about who we hired, and we even got into a system a lot about, we had to have questions about, do you truly believe in recovery?
Yeah.
Because in order to work in this living room, you have to truly believe in recovery, and that recovery is absolutely possible for every single person in the city.
Yeah.
And we had questions in our interviews to kind of find those people, and we have been so lucky to find a great team of peers, and that's what makes us unique. So we really decided that if we were going in on our model, we were going to go all in. So everybody that works in the living room has experience with recovery.
Good.
And we believe that's the number one difference that we're making in the city is this grand opportunity. People will say, what do you get when you come to the living room? Like, well, you're greeted with the face of someone who's been there and done that. And the intervention starts when we say hello and welcome. So.
What's the process, Stephanie, when people come into the living room? Start with the pickup. Let's start with the police call.
Okay. Well, the police will just make a determination on who is appropriate at the time, and they'll bring them into us. They'll buzz the doorbell upstairs, and we will immediately go up and greet them, open the door, invite the person in, make sure that they feel welcome.
Come into my living room.
Yes.
Welcome. We're glad you're here.
I love
literally.
that.
Yeah.
I love
We say
that.
we're the
You're
worst
welcome.
guest hotel in town.
Yeah. So they come downstairs, and we take care of belongings. We don't let a lot of belongings into the unit just for safety reasons.
Sure.
They are met. We do basic vital checks. We make sure that they are safe, meaning that we just quickly screen, are you having any thoughts of harming yourself or others? We introduce the living room to make sure it's something that they're interested in, and if it's not, they are welcome to walk right back out. This is a completely voluntary process, so it's kind of secure on the way in, and Kim likes to say Walmart on the way out.
Fort Knox coming in, Walmart
Yep.
going out.
So then the question, I guess, becomes when we're talking about low barriers, and this has been a huge conversation I'm going to ask Barbara about in just a minute, but one of the things that I always think people are concerned about is mixing people who are sober and people who are high, especially if they're on spice or if they're on meth or if they're doing something that is going to provide the potential of a hazard to someone else. So how is that dealt with when someone comes into the living room?
Well, luckily, Metro has funded us and allowed us to have a very large space.
Yes, it is.
It allows for us to keep people in certain spots,
Gotcha.
give people lots of space from one another. So peers are obviously going to work very closely with those folks. Most people, when they're coming in and drunk, they just really want to go to sleep. They just want rest a lot of the times. And so we provide that rest. They can pull chairs together and just lay down and relax.
It's not a
watch
residential
TV.
facility, and it's not a hotel, and there are no beds here. It's a living room. It looks like a cafeteria, and I'll show you in just a minute. We'll go ahead and spin the
So
camera.
it's like
around.
sleeping on your sofa. You're watching TV, and maybe you'll chat with some folks, and
Kind of a
it's
chill
really
out.
about chilling and relaxing.
Yeah, very good. Let's talk about the low barrier shelter, Barbara, because I've seen you on the news. We've been talking
Right.
about the clean outs. The camps are once again in transition. I drive past the one down by Unity every single day when I go to Bridgehaven Mental Health Services, and it's such a fine line, and it's so difficult. And I thought one of the most profound things that you said was that well-meaning citizens can contribute to the problem of homelessness by bringing furniture and bringing mattresses and large amounts of things that a person who's homeless, I mean, when you are homeless, you carry what you can, and that's going to be it.
Right.
So when you transfer to another camp, you leave all that behind, and then it's the city coming in with the bulldozer and the backhoe and the garbage cans, and I thought that was just a really important thing to say is hook your wagon to a star. Let Tiny from the Forgotten
Right.
Louisville, or Bethany from My Dog Eats First, or the folks from Street Reach Disciples, or from Exit Zero, from Hip Hop Cares, help you to contribute. So talk to us about how we can get those people to help us with helping people get into that low barrier shelter.
Right. So as you've outlined, these are incredibly complex challenges
Yes.
that we're facing. And from my experience, I think the more complex a challenge is, the more we need a common sense solution to that. And the living room model is a perfect example of a very common sense solution to something that people were just literally knocking their heads trying to figure out how to solve. So before I answer that question, I did want to say what piqued my interest originally about the living room model. A couple years ago, as a new councilwoman, I was looking into the statistics and trying to figure out the challenges that LMPD was having and what our Metro Corrections Facility. And it became very clear to me that jail overcrowding was not just
Right.
an overcrowding issue where people weren't as comfortable. It was very unsafe for people who work there and
right.
people who come there. And so as soon as I started understanding the living room model and realizing we might be able to actually reduce some of the jail overcrowding if we can create another environment that makes so much more sense for someone to be taken to. If an officer encounters someone who appears to or has broken the law, and it doesn't rise to the level of a serious crime, if the individual is willing to come to the living room, then the officer and that person can make that decision together. And so you start that very first bonding with what little I understand about it. And there comes an officer in a uniform that is actually wanting to help this individual. So then they bring them here. And it, as you said, it's not going to spend the night, but it keeps them out of the jail. It keeps them without having a booking
Yes.
on their record. And it helps minimize the length of the record that any individual can have. And one of the most profound things said to me was someone said, we have to stop locking people up that we're mad at instead of locking up people who are violent criminals.
Yeah.
So that draws into, the conversation, who should be on home incarceration and who should not. We can talk about that on another day.
Yeah.
I think the most important thing that people can do as we start processing all of these complex challenges is to inform ourselves. The most important thing we can do is to be as informed as we can about what we're doing to help what we see as a community challenge, because the worst thing we can do, whether we want to bring items in, we want to offer our own services, we don't want to have unintended consequences.
Yes.
And I thought, well, I need to practice what I'm preaching. So last April, I started visiting many of the homeless camps, and I'm visiting somewhere at least on a weekly basis. For a while,
Good.
it was every day, so I could start building relationships and understanding what they needed and what they didn't need. So what prompted me to say recently, think twice before you bring a carload or a truckload of very large items, big tubs of clothing, big boxes of food. Be thinking about that before you bring it, and think, is that something that a person experiencing homelessness really wants or needs? And so I started asking the folks that I was meeting that were living under at the viaducts and the overpasses and back up in the woods. I said, what do you need? They said, please tell anybody you can to really think about what they bring, because when they bring it and drop it off and think they're helping, some of the things we really need, but some of the things we can't use, and then you all, they looked at me, the city and the police, blame us for not keeping our area clean. So there's been a lot of misunderstanding in the last week about Barbara's plea to the community as to think about what you're bringing, because some folks felt that I was saying don't bring anything. What I'm saying is what you said, Tara. If you want to bring something in, please call the Coalition for the Homeless, and please check where you can drop things off.
Right.
Please contact any of the street outreach workers, and there are so many that are doing such a great job. We couldn't do what we're doing for those experiencing homelessness if it weren't for the camaraderie and the working together of our street outreach workers. So people say, well, what is low barrier? What does that mean? Someone actually thought that low barrier meant when you walked into the facility, the walls were lower and you could see over the tops of them.
Like in kindergarten bathrooms.
And so I thought to myself, okay, I need to think about the words we're using, you guys, and how we're talking about it. So someone said, just describe low barrier as the 3 Ps: pets, possessions, and partners.
Yeah.
So 3 of the top reasons that someone gets turned away from a shelter here in our city, even if their bed's available, is they can't bring in a pet in most places, if not all, most of the time, can't come in with a partner, and then they can't bring all their possessions with them.
Right.
And then wrap around coping with mental illness, coping with addiction of some sorts. It's such a challenge.
Yeah.
And I think common sense solutions are wonderful. I'm 100% supportive of what the folks are doing here at the Living Room Model. And I live a few blocks down the street from the Blue Beacon right outside. So every night and every day as I'm going through this area in my car, I look over, and more times than not, there's a soft handoff happening. I'm hoping that you all, or one of you all, will announce the huge announcement that I saw today. It was mentioned a week or so ago, but I just saw it in print today about how Living Room Model is now 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for anyone to bring someone. I'd love for you all to talk about that, because I know there are folks out there listening, Tara, that they're thinking, I need to bring my brother, my sister, my mom, my child, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you clarified what you said, because I saw the news clip and I was kind of surprised that it was put together the way it was, because I know you and I know how you speak.
Right.
And I was very much in favor of the things that you were saying, and I'm glad that you got a chance to just clarify that, because I'm much the same way. When I wrote the article, I was with Maurice Lemons, who works with the Forgotten Furniture and also with the Forgotten Louisville. And one of the comments he made that was so profound to me is he said, you know, we kept ourselves as nasty and dirty as we could to keep people away. And we put junk out all over the place. It's just like the underpass I was just talking about. It was so filthy and so disgusting to most people going by that they'd never stop. And that's exactly what that particular community wanted to achieve. They wanted to be left alone. So, you know, I think that one of the things that is so important for us to realize, and we're focusing a little bit more on the homeless situation now, is sterno, gloves, boots, tarps, tents, jackets, rain gear, things that can be used and carried and worn, and that are in small personal care things. You know, don't get into the heavy duty stuff, but you know, toothbrushes, backpacks are fantastic. So, you know, just think about those things. And then of course my dog eats first. Bethany and her wonderful crew providing companion animals of the homeless with food and basic veterinary help and leashes and kitty litter.
Right.
And those are things that are so important that people don't even know about. And it shocks me how they can, well, it's because I'm so tuned into the animal community, but how you could not know about my dog eats first. So, so those are all things that are going to help with that. And the living room is going to be a huge conduit for the people who are coming in off the streets to eventually, I believe, move into a place that will be their home. And, you know, of course, wherever you are is your home, but with a roof over your head. Talk to me a little bit about how people feel when they come in, Rhonda, and how you help them as a peer support specialist, which is someone with a lived experience with any kind of mental illness and in recovery. How do you help the folks who come in who are feeling just desperate?
We have people that are very desperate when they come to the door, as you said. We have people that are confused. We have people that are nervous to be talking to us. The first thing that we do is make sure that we welcome them to the living room. And as peer supports, we explain to them that we have been there, exactly where they're at or close to where they're at.
Is that the doorbell?
No, it's not.
Just checking.
And
It's a nice doorbell, if it was.
and you know, if we can just get across to them that if they come down into the living room, they have us to talk to.
Yes.
There's nothing to worry about. It's a safe place. You know, we'll give you some hot coffee. We'll give you somewhere to sit. You can clear your mind.
Yes.
You can get rid of some of that anxiety. Let's do some breathing exercises
Good.
together.
Good.
So it's just, we try our best to make them realize they're not going to be judged once they walk in this building.
Right.
That we know what they're going through, and we're here to help them with whatever they need in any way we can.
That's wonderful.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
appreciate that so much. Thanks for the good work that you do.
Thanks.
You guys are on the front lines. You are too, Barbara.
Right.
I've never seen anyone like Barbara Sexton Smith in her Barbara Sexton Smith mobile driving around.
Which is parked right at the front door right now. I felt bad about parking there, but I know, folks, if we're
It'll
going to
be
do a
fun.
drop-off while we're having this broadcast, you'll be able to come in, just park near my car. Just look for the
Park
BSS
around.
If you
mobile.
need to find a living room, look for the Barbara Sexton Smith mobile. I told them already about how you kept me captive for 2 hours because your district was so big and had so much going on that our Cruising with the Council segment went 2 hours instead of 1, and I loved every minute of it because your enthusiasm is contagious and you love your people and your people love you.
I love what I do.
I know you do.
You know, I feel like it's such a blessing to get to do this work that I do. I mean, I was happily retired as president and CEO from the Fund for the Arts after all those years. Never dreamed I'd go back to work again. I never dreamed or considered running for office. And, you know, people say, well, it's a calling. You know it's a calling when the community's hunger meets your passion. That's where the intersection in this world hits the sweet spot. And so every night when I go to bed, I'm excited and I'm thinking about what I'm going to do the next morning. And when I get up, it's like, okay, send me in, coach. I'm ready to go. You know, where can I go? Who can I help today? And I can hear that in your all's voices and feel that as we visit with you all. You know, something that I would like for us to talk a little bit about to the folks that are listening, if there's someone out there that is thinking they do want to bring someone that they know here,
Yes.
can you talk about and assure folks that they can only be here 23 hours and they're not going to become part of a system
Right.
that then you lose independence and control over, and then talk about the kind of things you do to connect them to services that may meet their specific needs. I didn't mean to take over the
You're,
interview.
you
There
can
we
be
go.
co-host any day. Before we
But
do that, I want to just acknowledge some of the folks who are watching. Tiny Markwell is watching.
Hey,
Thank you,
Tiny.
Tiny. We
Hi,
appreciate
Tiny.
you.
Thank you for all you do.
She's wonderful. She has a family emergency right now. Sheila Bishop, Jennifer Brown, Laura Knowles, Jerry Swan. Oh, Tiny says, Tara, the forgotten Louisville loves the living room.
Yay!
We've
And
been
we
able
love
to.
Tiny.
We've been
Yeah,
able to
Louisville.
transport several there during outreach. Sorry I couldn't be there with you guys. Their peer staff is superb. And of course, we love Barbara and her love for our brothers and sisters experiencing homelessness. Alan Miller, good. Glad to see you. Brad Leedy is watching from Bridgehaven. Shelley Santry, of course. Yo-Yo Tara is her favorite greeting to me. She's a fabulous woman. Tracy Sprouse is watching. Shelley says, what a great show and what a super great program. Rick Adams. Kristen says, yes, keep that low barrier shelter conversation going. So we'll pick up the rest of the comments in just a minute. But feel free, whoever wants to take the question that Barbara just posed, just jump on in.
Do you want to take it, Rhonda? Or?
Actually, yes.
Okay.
And I'll give an example. I had a mother come to the door the other day, and her son is an addict, and she has tried everything and anything to get him into treatment, mental inquest warrants, court orders, what have you. And I explained to her what the living room is. I said, if you can talk your son into it, I said, you can bring him here. I said, we're all recovered addicts. We all have mental health issues. I said, he might feel more comfortable coming and talking to us
Yeah.
because we can relate to him
Yes.
instead of being put in an ambulance or being put in a squad car. He can come to us and ring the doorbell, and we'll bring him down here. You know, if he needs to sober up, if he needs somebody to talk to, and we can direct him to different resources. We can help get him in a detox program.
Right.
We can help get him in a residential treatment program if need be. Because he already has the support. His mother's desperate at this point, and she came to us. Now we're trying to get her to bring him to us
Yeah.
so that we can help the mother and the son.
Yeah, that's a fantastic example.
Yes.
So I'm curious about this because the aforementioned Kyle has been here. once at least, if not more times. And one of the questions that I had that somebody asked me on the street that night was, do people get to go down there and change their clothes? Do they get to, take showers? Are they fed meals? What's the environment like? We're not talking about a living room, a bathroom, a kitchen, and a
Right.
seat center,
It's a
but
living room.
Right.
what are the things that are offered to folks who are coming in?
It's got a very intentional design because if you remember, we kind of did a real strong needs assessment. And we wanted to make sure that we're not functioning solely as a shelter.
Right.
We're a recovery environment. So when people come in, we certainly, through the generous gift of the Heine Brothers Coffee Company, who has gifted us great tasting coffee
Love
and
them.
been a huge fan of the living room and supportive of us. They do get a great warm cup of coffee. We do have the ability for people to change clothes. We're working with another community partner who did not have a need for men's clothing, who brought us a great amount of men's clothing. We've had
Wow.
some donations from the Louisville ambassadors who we
Great.
work
The
with.
police department.
The police department. We had a police officer clean out his closet and call us
Great.
and said, "Can you take shoes?" Well, of course. So we have some general basics. We make sure everybody has clean underclothing if they'd like.
Great.
And we're in the process of building out some bathrooms. It's a real gigantic financial commitment
I
to
bet.
do bathrooms. But we do offer people small hygiene kits. They can use a private bathroom to get cleaned up. We encourage comfort here. That's the biggest thing. Like she said, we do welcome. And then the next thing is comfort.
Yes.
What do you need, regardless of where you are right now, to be comfortable and feel safe? And a lot of that has to do with maybe I just need to wash my hands, I need to wash my face, I'd like to brush my teeth, I'd like to get out of these wet clothing. We do have a washer and dryer here, and we will
Oh,
wash
great.
up people's
That's good.
what they're wearing, and if they'd like us to, we'll dispose of it. Sometimes they ask us just to dispose of it, and we'll provide that as well, because we do have pretty comfortable clothes they can shift into that are regular clothes, not scrubs, nothing
Right.
like that. You get regular clothes. We've been real lucky. The YMCA has given us their lost and found coats in the past. Super
Oh,
smart of them to
excellent.
think of us.
Very smart.
If you're missing a coat from the YMCA, sorry. They tried. It was there for a real long time before they gave it to us.
Well, I love that.
Isn't
I
that a
love
great
all of those
idea?
things.
They
They're
came to
great.
us.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so food-wise, we have some just basic light refreshments, just snacks, because there are such wonderful food resources available here in the community. So our goal is to really, if someone is interested, we're low push too. All of our peer staff are here and willing to share their stories, willing to share what resources work for them, what resources may not have worked for them on their journey. But we don't shove it onto people,
Right.
because this is voluntary, and we want people to feel welcome, safe, and
Right,
comfortable.
right.
So our peer supports are fabulous at initiating that conversation and trying to get people engaged in that conversation. But we don't make them have that conversation.
Well, and it's not a
Absolutely not.
spiritual, religious program. It's
Right.
not a
No.
12-step program. It's not anything that is, it's not Republican, it's not Democrat. It's not affiliated with anything except your well-being.
That's right.
Yes.
Ah.
And that's the most important thing I think that we can get across is that you don't have to have permission from any entity
And you don't
to
have to
come
take
to the living
anything
room.
from us other
That's
than
exactly
safety,
right.
warmth, and comfort. And we're willing for that to be enough for you in this part of your journey, to allow us to be part of that part of your journey for today. And we understand that it's more like a marathon than a sprint in recovery.
Yes.
And there's lots of stops along the way. And we hope that today's your day. But if it's not, we'll be here tomorrow. We'll be here this afternoon. It's meant to be very gentle. So we have a very person-centered environment. Stephanie created a real basic tool. We are Common Sense here that just says, if you would allow us to talk to you about what brought you in today, what natural supports do you have that you may have forgotten about, like your mom,
Ah.
because you're not in a
Wow.
place to think about? But let's talk about your natural supports. Oh, you have income. Oh, you have a pet. Oh, you have a brother in Massachusetts. Great. Let's talk about those as natural supports. But let's also talk about what you don't have in your life that you would like to have,
Yeah.
and what those barriers are. And we call them bubbles, and we just fill in little bubbles. And then our guys are experts in resources.
Yes.
Here's some resources in our beautiful community that might fit something in that I need bubble.
Yeah.
And how likely are you to use that, and what's gotten in your way of using it in the past? And would you like us to help you get there? And if somebody says yes, our eyes light up, we get really excited.
Yep.
And we'll actually take you there, and we'll walk in with you, and we'll
Huge.
sit with you until you're ready. I mean, they have deployed to emergency rooms on
Yes.
middle of the night call requests. Please, 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 I've got a person interested.
We
Will you
just
go?
picked someone up at Audubon just a little bit ago.
Yeah, good work to
Good.
Norton Audubon. Thank you.
Excellent.
Let me ask about that. So when you say you just picked someone up from the emergency room at Audubon, had they been admitted, or were they just there and then there was an interception? Because, Tara, I don't know if you have thought about this. Another reason the living room model is so powerful and effective is because the admittance rate to our emergency rooms at our hospitals is through the roof.
Right.
And that is probably the most, is that the most expensive admittance? If a person's going to be admitted on an emergency basis or into the jail, then the emergency room is very expensive, and it's probably not the best place for many of the individuals to be. If it's not in a true emergency, I'm the daughter of a registered nurse, God rest her soul. So we didn't make emergency runs when I was a child.
Lucky you.
I only remember one time, and my brother was horrifically hurt. He fell off of a barn, and I don't know why he was up there in the first place. But
It's a boy.
he was a boy. But I think
Wait a minute, I was on
I
barns
was
a
getting
lot.
ready to say,
Hold off the roof of my house.
I mean, he did. He fell right out of the barn. So anyway, the living room model is another place to go as opposed to not going to that emergency room. So that is great to hear that that's working.
So in the last couple of weeks, we have spent a tremendous volume of time outreaching to all of our local resources because we got this opportunity to be open to the public. When Tara walks you around, you're going to see our triage room. That was really the challenge of getting people in to make sure we had that safety because we'd been so absolutely taken care of by LMPD in the detention center. There was never a safety feature that we had to worry with. So it took us a little while to get that built out, but once we did, so we have been working, I mean, literally in every emergency room in town on a regular basis with our brochure saying, you know, if you have high frequency utilizers here in your ER who come in because they're scared because they're overwhelmed with substances, or they come in because they're disoriented and they know that you're a safe place, or they're hungry, or they're cold, or they're just overwhelmed and feel unsafe. You can work with them pre-registration if you choose, and you can call and we will come get them, or you can put them in a cab, or you can Uber them, but we are available to take them at any time. We would love to have them. And we are seeing some success with that. The other place we're saying is if you're triaging them because of mental health conditions and they don't meet criteria for imminent safety precautions, but you don't just want to let them go, and they don't want to just go, and they're being, you know, I need more. We're the need more place. We're here. That's what we do, and we'd love to have you.
We talk about at Bridgehaven Mental Health Services, where I work, we're a conduit from the hospitals and the jails and homelessness back into productive living, and you guys are providing a bridge there as well. You know, and we were just talking about costs, Barbara. It's hundreds of dollars to get into the jail. It's thousands of dollars to go through the emergency room or to be inpatient admitted. You know, we're talking sometimes tens of thousands at that point. And we've got, you know, we always say the jail is the biggest detox center and homeless shelter in the city, which is heartbreaking. And we don't have room. Someone went in this last week, took a bottle of Xanax and was taken to the university, and unfortunately there were no beds, and released. And usually there's a referral process there, which is, you know, obviously something needs to be put in place to make sure that continues to happen. But, you know, those kinds of situations are just terrifying. And when someone is lying on the street or rocking, holding his head, crying out, you know, having taken a little bit too much of something, police officers are called, and instead of immediately racing down to the hospital, if they are in a state that they can actually be helped and be, you know, somewhat okay, this is the place that we want people to be able to come.
Yeah, and we kind of make sure that we're the right place through that triage system where we take your vitals. And the vitals are telling us everything we need to know.
Right.
So as long as your temperature is within a manageable range, as long as your O2 level is within a manageable range, and your heart rate is within a manageable range, we're okay. We have been very fortunate through the expansion with Louisville Metro Council to get nursing into the environment.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So we do have nurses who have experience with recovery, so we're really proud of that.
Yeah.
In our environment 12 hours a day. So they'll be coming on here very soon, right? And
so they're in the overnight.
They come because that's our busiest,
the busiest
peak period.
time, of course.
So they're here and they're doing basic first aid because, as you probably know very well, being outside or having addiction and mental health issues can lead to some pretty significant physical health issues. Wound care, foot care,
feet care,
and feet.
You know, my uncle was a Marine on the Chosin March. And he used to say to us when we get out of the showers, he'd say, dry between your toes, because if you lose your feet, you got wet socks, wet boots, you can't go anywhere. And that's what happened to that young man when he was lying on the ground. He said, I can't walk anymore. And thank God the police officer came and brought him to you, because in many situations, an ambulance will be called. Now, what does it cost to send an ambulance out on a run to tell someone you're okay and you really could have come to a place like this first or been taken here by a police officer, and we stop and think about, you know, your mother-in-law is having a heart attack and the ambulance is being diverted to somebody who may not need the services of the ambulance, but may need the services of the living room, which I think is fantastic. When you, as a peer support specialist, when you are dealing with someone who has just come in, is in probably the worst shape of their lives, is feeling desperate, is feeling hopeless, is maybe having a psychotic break, is maybe in the throes of an addiction, maybe has nowhere to go at night. What is your outcome? What have you seen as a personal experience as a peer support specialist is an outcome that you would be proud to share?
Oh gosh, there's actually various amazing outcomes. I've seen people come in that don't know where they are, and they've gone through and talked to the crisis team, and they've gone on to do services with Centerstone. And I've actually had a person come back and ring the doorbell just to say that they were okay now.
I love that.
We love that.
Yeah, I bet.
That's huge.
Yeah, it
And
is.
actually, just this morning, we had a guest, and he said that a friend of his came through the living room about a year ago.
Good.
When the program first started, and the gentleman that was here today said that that gentleman's life has done a complete 180. He said he's in a good place. He's actually helping him out, and that's what brought him to the living room today.
That's fantastic. We also want to acknowledge the fact that we've got quite a few people who are watching. Brenda Davidson, Kat Ziegler from Orlando, Florida. Welcome, Rita Hearn-Smith. Kentucky and Lost and Found Pets Network. She finds more lost dogs and pairs them back up with their owners. Nancy Bohannon, Joy Estes, Great Pyrenees Rescue, Angela Leet, who was our Republican candidate for mayor, Leslie Hansford of My Dog Eats First, Kim Kelly, Terry Howard. Angela says it was amazing to sponsor a meeting to share this wonderful service with our home rule city police chiefs. Many thanks to J-Town Mayor Bill DeRoof and the J-Town City Council for hosting us. Richard Brown, James Green, Jenny Sapel. Tammy Hawk says thank you for all you do. I pray my daughter seeks help with you all. Great, thank you. Rebecca Eves of the Arrow Fund, Dr. Francis Weinstock, Amanda Mills, who is one of our great home outreach partners, Karen Crompton, and Angela also says many thanks to Centerstone for addressing a real need in our community, our mental health. That's fantastic. Right. Tony Hendricks, Rebecca Stutzman, Rick Asbury, Sharon Lawrence Brown, Mark Wagner, Jen Bowers, and Brenda Jackson. And I'm calling you all out right now because we're getting closer. It's 4:45. When you're having a great conversation, time flies. When you're having a terrible conversation, it drags like there's no tomorrow. I don't have very many of those here. I really don't. I'm very fortunate to have great guests. And I love to explore areas of our city, as Barbara and I did when we went on the Cruising with the Council. Anytime I go out with a council member, I go to a different neighborhood. And I always say, if you don't get out of your box, you don't know how everyone else lives and how can you help people. So in Barbara's neighborhood particularly, share what your district is so people know, because you've got some downtown, you've got some, you've got some really difficult areas of town and then some really incredible areas of town, as do a lot of the Metro Council members. Right,
so each of the 26 Metro Council areas are divided based on population, and that's based off of the census reporting. So there's roughly about 29,000 people, give or take a little bit, in each district. So geographically, District 4 that I represent, the center of it is the entire downtown business district. All of that resides in District 4. But then our river, the Ohio River, is the northern border of my district, and it goes all the way west until you get to 24th Street. And then if you come up 24th Street and you envision the Russell neighborhood, not all, but a vast majority of the Russell neighborhood is in District 4. And then we cross over Broadway and we go south on Broadway a little bit and pick up a few blocks of the California neighborhood. And then you come back up to 15th Street and Broadway and come all the way down Broadway, and everything as you're driving east on Broadway on your left is the beautiful District 4. And then when you get to you get up toward 5th Street, we cut out and we start keyholing around, I like to call it, and all of the Shelby Park neighborhood, all of Smoketown, all of Paristown Point, all of Merriweather, Fort Hill, depending on what you want to call it. We call it both. A little bit of Germantown, a little bit of Snitzelburg.
The skate park.
The skate park. We love the Dave Armstrong Extreme Skate Park. That whole thing is in District 4, and if you're out driving around, I hope you'll drive by the Extreme Skate Park and see the magnificent mural project that we put up as a graffiti prevention program. And then a little bit of our Irish Hill neighborhood. We have Central High School, the home school of Cassius Clay, our native son, as well as many other famous folks that have come through District 4. I love Phoenix Hill. Did we mention Phoenix Hill? And
Boy,
we
there's
did.
a lot
We love
going
you,
on
Phoenix
there.
Hill. Phoenix
Yeah.
is rising. And Butchertown.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Butchertown. I love JBS. There were a lot of folks that complained about Swift and the smells, the aroma that would come from that plant over the years. But Tara, for me, that is jobs. More and better jobs in the
The
neighborhood.
smell of money.
We're working on the scent abatement in that area.
I don't notice it as much. I've lived
I
here
don't
for
either.
25 years in this area, and I'm in Bill Hollander's district actually, and I'm right up the road from where
Right.
Barbara's bumps up against ours. But I don't seem to notice, and I think I just must be used to it. But it doesn't seem as bad.
Well, the reason you're not noticing that is because of the incredible investment that the folks have made to abate those odors in pre-processing and processing.
There you go.
I sound like I know what I'm talking
She
about here.
invested, she invested in Febreze, is the real truth.
Yeah.
She's got constituents
I'm
out
green
spraying
giant.
Febreze all over Butchertown.
And how about that soccer stadium that's on
Yeah.
its way?
Yay.
Yeah.
Well, so the point that I wanted to make in asking Barbara to outline her district is a lot of the folks who are coming to you are in this woman's
Right.
district.
Absolutely.
And when I got to drive around with her, I was quite impressed about the fact that, not only was she waving and calling out the window, but people were pointing and saying, you're our Metro Council person. And it's very important that every
Right.
Metro Council person take that same ownership, that same investment that Barbara has, because this addiction is not discriminatory and it is not limited to
Right.
zip code. And neither is homelessness, and neither is mental illness. And again, that that unholy trinity of factors is what puts people in the living room. So I just invite all Metro Council members, if they haven't already been here, and I'm sure that a lot of them have, to come and see it, and also to take me on a drive of your neighborhood, because I like cruising with the council too. but seriously, this is an amazing thing to see, and an amazing thing to know is available to folks who are in need. And I really appreciate the fact that people are watching. Dr. Karen Lands, who is doing acupuncture on my big boy Brady, she's a veterinarian who's helping us, and I'm going to ask her to do some acupuncture on me too. So thank you, Karen. I appreciate it. Matthew Glazer is watching. Thank you so much. We want to make sure that people understand that this is not a residential facility. It's not what they would call a day program. I mean, Bridgehaven's a day agency. It's not for sleeping, it's not for staying, it's for 23 hours of comfort. So the next question comes, how often can you repeat the 23 hours? We say in 12-step programs you can start your day over any time you want, but how many 23-hour periods can you spend?
Unlimited?
So you leave for an hour and you can come back?
Yeah, if
Really?
that's what you need.
Wow. That's
And do you
amazing.
have to stay the entire 23 hours?
No, ma'am, you
No.
stay as little or as
Right.
much as you like, up to 23 hours. That's the nice part. It's really, that's that person-centered concept of, we're not going to tell you what you need. You're going to decide
Right.
what you need. And sometimes we've had experiences where people, it's hard for them to believe that this is real. And they come down the stairs, and I'm excited that you're going to show the environment, because we've heard the stairs can be a little intimidating for folks, because you don't know what's at the bottom, and you've got all of us who you don't know saying, no, really, you can leave any time. But people with mental illness and addiction have been held against their will sometimes.
Right.
And so it's very difficult to trust persons at times.
Especially when we have locked doors.
Yeah,
I mean,
when you're
because-
seeing us code in
yeah,
all
code
the
in.
time. So that opportunity, you come down, some people just need to come down and they look around, and that's all they need for that moment. And we
Exactly.
always say when you leave, we're happy to have you come again. Give us a good rating, because we do a checkout survey. And so we've had people who come
It's like
back
a
to-
Yelp review.
Exactly. Give us a good review. So then hopefully we get to see them again. I think there was some confusion that we had to work through with your help with the
Right.
council members about our frequent guests. We really are very excited about that. We learned that concept well in Bexar County, Texas, while we were kind of hanging out with their triage center, and the van driver said, oh, you saw Jerry there on his mat. He's been here 110 times. And she and I held hands and we're like,
Wow.
and I said, what what do you do with 110 times? And he said, without missing a beat, you hope that it's 111 when he makes his decisions.
Wow.
And that framed
Right.
something so important
That's
for us
amazing.
in that moment. That when we say low barrier, one of the low barriers is there's no time limits. Another one is, if you need us twice today, come here twice today. If you need us 4 times tomorrow, come here 4 times tomorrow. Because I truly believe in the recovery journey. Something's going to hit. I've gotten the opportunity to be around our peers enough to learn that I don't know if it was you or somebody else who said to me, somebody believed in me that 111th time. It was
exactly.
Nick, our very wise peer, that I want to be that for somebody else, no matter what number it is. So we really made an investment. The police gave us that feedback too, is we can't keep a list of who can come when.
Right.
This just needs to be available, and we greatly respected and appreciated what they had said with the TA we were getting from the other states, and our peers saying, that's right. So it'll be a day.
No
just one day."
reservations necessary.
No reservations
What
necessary.
was your background, Stephanie?
I'm an art therapist.
Ah.
And where did you work before?
I've never worked before.
This is your first job as an art therapist?
Yes,
Dang, that's awesome.
How long
What a
have you been
great
here,
place
Steph?
to start.
21 years.
Oh, I love that. So I want to. Is this the best
21
first job
years.
anybody could ever have?
Always. There's the
Always.
That's the doorbell?
That's
I love that.
it's amazing. So Steph, did you create this window, this 3-dimensional piece of art on the
I
wall?
wish I had.
pretty.
My room has all my artwork.
Okay.
It's back
amazing.
here.
That
That's
is
beautiful.
amazing. And what was your background?
I'm a
Kim?
social worker. And ask me what my first
This
job
wasn't
was.
your first
Yes,
job.
it was.
Oh, no.
We started. How many times? So I've
No.
been here. This is 2019 is my 23rd year.
At Centerstone.
We started almost together. Our ID numbers are only a few apart, which makes us
Oh,
giggle.
my goodness.
And we have
That's
been
funny.
partners in crime for that entire 20 plus years.
That's amazing.
So we truly have a passion and commitment to this
Thelma
environment.
and Louise.
I'm not going over the cliff.
Well, wait a minute.
I think you did. Maybe we have.
You already did. Tell me about
we
the,
survived it.
Tell me about the last year of your life. Have you been here for the full year?
I have not been here for the full year. I'm a newer addition.
Welcome. Welcome to
Thank
the
And
living
a
room.
marvelous
Thank you.
addition.
Yes.
I've been in recovery for a little over a year.
Excellent.
Mental illness and opiate addiction. My final drop to the bottom was I lost my husband, and my daughter told me that she didn't feel safe with me anymore. And so that's when I decided I needed some help.
Have you reestablished the relationship with your daughter?
Yes, I have.
Glad to hear that.
She's actually come here to visit me, and she'll be back spring break.
Excellent.
Oh,
so she's in
yes.
college somewhere.
She's 13. She's a big
Oh.
8th grader now.
Wow.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes, she's an 8th grader going on college.
I love that.
Yeah.
So when the media comes to see you here at the living room, in those 2-minute sound bites that you did, well, 30 seconds in some cases, but the other thing that I noticed about that news article that we were talking about, the news interview that we were talking about, is it was like one sentence at a time. And you didn't get a chance to really say what you wanted to say in its entirety. So I'm just going to give you a minute, Barbara, to
All right.
say what you want to say about the living room. And then I'll let the other ladies do the same.
Well, first of all, I want to congratulate you all for those that work here all day in the living room model, because I believe Louisville really is the urban laboratory for the rest of the country to watch. And although you traveled around, you learned best practices from other places, and then you put your own make on this. And I think we're going to become the living room model that everybody's going to want to be, and a big portion of that is because of what you do and what you brought to the story. So my hope and my vision is that we really will decrease overcrowding at the jail. We really will decrease overcrowding at our emergency rooms, and not so much that it's those places don't need to be overcrowded. It's that's not the right place for someone in their darkest hour and their biggest time of need. They need to be here with you. And so I fought for funding for the living room last year on Metro Council, and I will be fighting for funding with my colleagues this coming year. And I'm asking everybody that's listening, please stop by the living room model, check it out, ring that doorbell. Hope will answer the door.
Stephanie.
Oh gosh, I don't know. How do I follow that?
Be the hope.
Yeah. Yes. Well, and I truly believe that the peers are the hope. you know, as a therapist, I try to help people every day, and I watch the peers on a daily basis, and they make such an amazing impact on people. You know, they make people feel so comfortable, so understood. They truly help make a difference, help make a change. And I'm really honored to work with the team that I work with. They're wonderful people. They may have struggled in their life. You know, we all struggle. They may have struggled more, but they've come out of it. And it's just so lovely to watch them give back.
Thank you.
I think my message is always about recovery, and that recovery is possible for everyone, and there's always an opportunity. And we really created this living room to be that beacon in the city of recovery when you're ready or want it, or even just want to put your feet in and experience it for just a tiny second. If you want to be around people who have entered that journey and are working that journey, we really, really want to offer that to everybody in the city every minute of every single day. And we welcome more people. We have more room, and we have more hope, and we have more recovery. Come on down.
There's no problem too big, and there's no problem too small that we can't help a person with. And this job and working here and being a part of this program is one of the greatest gifts I've ever received. As a peer support specialist, it's so nice to be able to relate to other people that are going through the same things that I've experienced. And I love being able to reach out to those people and make them feel comfortable.
And guide them towards what they need to do, what they want to do next in life.
Do now is I'm going to unplug, and I'm going to take the phone, which is my camera, off of the tripod, and I'm going to ask Kim to come with me and just kind of walk around and show me what it is that we are offering here at the living room. And I really want to thank Rhonda and Stephanie and Barbara Sexton Smith. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're slammed with things to do, so thank you. Let's take a quick peek around what we have. Oh, look, there's Shannon Corbin White right there. The woman who doesn't want anyone to see her. Thank you for setting this up.
We are in the expanded version of the living room, thanks to the generous funding by Louisville Metro Council and the Public Health Department, where this heating vent used to be the wall, and so we were in a very compressed space. And so what you're seeing now is this really expanded space that's available to us, so that we have that more room for people to spread out if they don't want to necessarily be in somebody else's space. You're seeing the actual living room chairs are these black chairs here. They're modular, they move around, and so people are welcome to move around, get comfortable. You see a TV station.
Very nice.
We offer lots of movies and calming opportunities through that.
Board games.
We have mandalas and an art station here, so that people are interested in that. More tables and chairs available, a little workstation where we're just offering that opportunity for folks.
And we also have some folks who are working back here, so we're not going to disturb them. But you can see that there's a place for coffee. There's a refrigerator for the snacks. As they said, the bathroom is getting ready to be put in, which will be nice to have some opportunities to clean people up. And what are all the balloons about?
We had our 1-year anniversary on December 10th.
Yay,
to 1 year!
exciting.
So the mayor came down, and Barbara Sexton Smith was available to us. LMPD and the Public Health Department with Dr. Moyer, they were all here to celebrate our 1-year anniversary, where we had served 1,100 guests in 1 year. And remember, it took us about 3 or 4 months to get open to just all the police divisions, the detention center, and to some of the area hospital ERs. And of that 1,100 guests, we're very proud to say that 95% of those persons were diverted from a higher level of care, and they left this environment with some resources, and they did not require going to the jail, they did not require going to a hospital, they did not require any other opportunity than being here with us.
That's fantastic. Well, I want to thank everybody who participated in today's show. Take It From Tara is always happy to get out and do fun and interesting things, but we also want to make sure that the social issues of our city are covered in depth instead of just having a 30-second opportunity. Thank you, Shannon, hiding over there in the corner in your beautiful red sweater. And thank you to Rhonda and Stephanie and Barbara. We appreciate you guys very much. Thanks, Kim. Everybody who's interested, come on down to the living room, 708 on Magazine Street, and you can find out more by going to the living room at Centerstone. The centerstone.org will have all of that information. And
589-4313.
589-4313. Thank you so much.